On Christmas Day, my parents locked my 15-year-old daughter outside in 19-degree weather. There were 32 people inside the house. Aunts, uncles, cousins, neighbors, people I did not even know. They were eating prime rib and laughing and opening presents. Sophie stood on the front porch for 4 hours. She knocked twice. Nobody answered. She texted me at hour 3. Her fingers were so cold she made typos. "Mom, when are you coming? It's really cold." I was working a mandatory shift at the hospital, managing employee schedules for the holiday, making sure everyone else got to spend Christmas with their families. I did not make a scene when I found out. I made phone calls. 72 hours later, my parents received foreclosure papers on the house I had been paying for since 2016. That was December 25th. By New Year's Eve, they were packing boxes. It was supposed to be a normal Christmas. Well, as normal as Christmas ever was with my family. The morning started early. Sophie woke me up at 6, which surprised me because she was 15 and usually slept until noon on weekends. But it was Christmas, and despite everything, she still had that little kid excitement about the holiday. We opened our presents in the living room. Just the two of us. I had gotten her a new laptop for school, some art supplies, clothes she had been wanting. She got me a framed photo of us from last summer, the one where we went to the beach and both got sunburned. She had written on the back, "Best mom ever. Love you always." I cried a little. She hugged me and said she meant it. I had to work. There was no way around it. I was the HR manager at County General Hospital, and someone had to be there on Christmas to handle scheduling emergencies, payroll issues, anything that came up. We were short-staffed as it was. I had volunteered to work so that the other managers could be with their families. I told myself it was the right thing to do. I told myself Sophie would be fine at my parents' house for a few hours. I told myself a lot of things that morning. My name is Rachel Bennett. I am 41 years old. I have worked in human resources for 19 years, the last 7 as a manager. I am good at my job. I am good at solving other people's problems, at mediating conflicts, at making sure everyone follows the rules. I am terrible at setting boundaries with my own family. Or I was. That changed on December 25th. Sophie is my only child. I had her when I was 26, right after I got my bachelor's degree. Her father left when she was 2. Just walked out one day and never came back. No child support. No phone calls. Nothing. I raised her alone. We have always been a team. Just the two of us against the world. She is smart, thoughtful, artistic. She gets straight A's without really trying. She draws these beautiful sketches, mostly landscapes and portraits. She wants to study art in college, maybe become a graphic designer. She is kind. That is the thing about Sophie that always gets me. She is genuinely kind. She sees the best in people, even when they do not deserve it. My parents have never treated Sophie the way they should. There is no dramatic reason for it. She is not adopted. She was not born out of wedlock. She is just not the grandchild they wanted. My younger brother, Matt, has 3 kids. Twin boys, age 12, and a daughter, age 9. They are loud, athletic, outgoing. The kind of kids who are easy to show off. Sophie is quiet. She reads. She draws. She would rather stay home than go to a party. My parents see that as a flaw. They have always seen that as a flaw. When the twins were born, my mother stayed at the hospital for 3 days. She brought balloons, stuffed animals, flowers. She posted 46 photos on Facebook in the first week. When Sophie was born, my mother visited once. She stayed for an hour. She did not hold her. She said newborns made her nervous. She posted 0 photos. Every birthday, every Christmas, every holiday, it was the same. Matt's kids got big parties, expensive presents, trips to amusement parks. Sophie got cards with small amounts of cash, maybe a sweater or a book. Nothing personal. Nothing that showed they actually knew her or cared about what she liked. I told myself it did not matter. I told myself we did not need them. But Sophie noticed. Kids always notice. When Sophie was 7, my parents took Matt's family to Disney World. They paid for everything. Flights, hotel, park tickets, meals. The whole trip cost them at least $8,000. Sophie found out because my mother posted photos every single day. Sophie asked me why we did not go too. I told her maybe next year. There was no next year. There has never been a next year. When Sophie was 10, she won a regional art competition. Her drawing was going to be displayed at the state capitol. It was a huge deal. I was so proud. I called my parents to tell them. My mother said that was nice, then spent 20 minutes talking about how Matt's son had scored 2 goals in his soccer game. She never asked to see Sophie's drawing. She did not come to the exhibition. Last year, for Thanksgiving, my parents asked me to host. They said their house was too small, that it would be easier at my place. I spent 3 days cooking. Turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes, 3 kinds of pie, the works. 16 people came. My parents, Matt and his wife and their kids, some aunts and uncles. Everyone brought their kids. During dinner, the adults sat at the dining room table. The kids sat at a folding table in the living room. Sophie was 14. Matt's daughter was 9. My mother told Sophie to sit with the little kids and help watch them. Sophie did not complain. She just went and sat at the kids' table, helped cut their turkey, wiped their faces. At the end of the night, my mother hugged Matt's kids and told them they were so well behaved. She did not say anything to Sophie. I have supported my parents financially for 8 years. It started in 2016. My father lost his job. He was 60 years old, had worked in manufacturing his entire life, and the plant closed. He could not find another job that paid anywhere near what he had been making. They were going to lose their house. They had lived there for 33 years. Raised me and Matt there. All their memories were in that house. I could not let them lose it. I refinanced my mortgage. I took out a loan against my 401k. I started paying their house payment every month. $934. Every single month. For 8 years. I also paid their car insurance. Their health insurance premiums. Half their utilities most months. When my father needed cataract surgery that their insurance only partially covered, I paid the difference. $2,200. When their roof needed repairs, I paid for that too. $6,000. I never asked for anything in return. I never threw it in their face. I just did it because they were my parents and I thought that was what you did. You help family. You show up. You sacrifice. That is what I was taught. That is what I believed. Matt did not help. He is a sales manager at a car dealership. He makes decent money. Not as much as me, but decent. He has a big house, new cars, takes vacations every year. But he never offered to help with our parents. Not once. And they never asked him to. They only asked me. Because I was responsible. Because I always said yes. Because they knew I would not let them down. This Christmas, my mother called me 3 weeks ahead. She said they were hosting a big family dinner. The whole extended family. Cousins I had not seen in years. Neighbors. Friends from their church. She said it was going to be special. She asked if I could bring side dishes. I said of course. She said to bring Sophie too, obviously. I asked what time. She said 1 o'clock. Dinner would be at 2. I told her I had to work until noon, but I would get there as soon as I could. She said that was fine, that Sophie could come earlier if she wanted to help set up. I said I would ask her. Sophie did not want to go early. She never wanted to go early to family events. She knew she would just be ignored or asked to babysit the younger kids while the adults talked. But I encouraged her. I told her it would be nice, that maybe this year would be different, that Grandma specifically invited her. Sophie looked at me with this tired expression. She was 15, but sometimes she looked so much older. So much more tired than a 15-year-old should look. She said okay. She would go. On Christmas morning, after we opened presents, Sophie got dressed. She wore a burgundy sweater I had bought her last month and her nice jeans. She did her hair, put on a little makeup. She looked beautiful. She asked me if I thought Grandma would like her outfit. I said of course she would. Another lie. My mother had never complimented Sophie on anything. Not once in 15 years. But I kept hoping. I kept thinking maybe this time would be different. I dropped Sophie off at my parents' house at 11:30. The driveway was already full of cars. I could hear voices and music from inside. My mother answered the door. She was wearing a red sweater with sequins and holding a glass of wine. She looked at Sophie and said, "Oh, you're early." Not hello. Not Merry Christmas. Just, "Oh, you're early." Sophie said she came to help set up like Grandma suggested. My mother looked confused for a second, then said, "Right? Okay. Well, come in." I should have stayed. I should have walked in with her, should have seen the look on my mother's face, should have sensed that something was wrong. But I was already running late for work. I gave Sophie a quick hug, told her I would be back by 1:30 at the latest, and left. That was the last time I saw her smile that day. I got to work and immediately got pulled into a crisis. One of the ER nurses called in sick, and we were scrambling to find coverage. Then there was a payroll issue that needed to be fixed before the holiday weekend. Then a scheduling conflict that had 3 people threatening to quit. I was putting out fires for 3 hours straight. I did not check my phone. I did not think about Sophie. I assumed she was fine. I assumed my mother was taking care of her. I assumed wrong. At 2:47, my phone buzzed. A text from Sophie. "Mom, when are you coming?" I texted back immediately. "Leaving in 15 minutes. Everything okay?" No response. I tried calling. It went to voicemail. I told myself she was probably eating, probably busy, probably fine. I finished up what I was working on and left at 3:15. I got to my parents' house at 3:35. The driveway was still packed with cars. I could hear laughter and music from inside. I walked up to the front door and knocked. My brother Matt answered. He was holding a beer and smiling. He said, "Hey Ratch. Merry Christmas." I said Merry Christmas back and asked where Sophie was. He looked confused. He said, "Isn't she with you?" My stomach dropped. "No. I dropped her off at 11:30. Where is she?" He shrugged. "I haven't seen her. Maybe she's in the basement with the other kids." I pushed past him and went inside. The house was packed. People everywhere. Talking, laughing, eating. I did not see Sophie. I went to the basement. Matt's 3 kids were down there playing video games. No Sophie. I went upstairs. Checked the bedrooms. No Sophie. I went back downstairs and found my mother in the kitchen. She was laughing with my aunt about something. I interrupted. "Mom, where's Sophie?" She turned and looked at me with this vague expression. "Who?" "Sophie. My daughter. Your granddaughter. I dropped her off 4 hours ago." "Where is she?" My mother's face did not change. She just looked at me like I was speaking another language. Then she said, "Oh, right. Sophie. I think she left." "She left? What do you mean she left?" "She said she wasn't feeling well." "She left. I don't know. Maybe she walked home." "Walked home?" "Mom, we live 6 miles from here. It's 19 degrees outside. Why would she walk home?" My mother shrugged. Actually shrugged. Like it was no big deal. Like my 15-year-old daughter disappearing for 4 hours on Christmas was just a minor inconvenience. "I don't know, Rachel. She's 15. She can take care of herself." I felt something crack inside me. Something fundamental. I turned and walked out of the kitchen. I went to the front door. I opened it. And there she was. Sophie was sitting on the front porch. She was huddled against the wall, her knees pulled up to her chest, her arms wrapped around herself. Her face was red from the cold. Her lips had a faint blue tint. She was shivering. She looked up when she heard the door open, and when she saw me, her face crumpled. She started crying. Not loud, dramatic crying. Just silent tears streaming down her frozen cheeks. I knelt down next to her. "Baby, what happened? Why are you out here?" She could barely talk. Her teeth were chattering so hard. They said there was no room. Grandma said the table was full. She told me to wait out here until you came. She said it wouldn't be long. That was at noon. I looked at my watch. It was 3:37. She had been outside for over 3.5 hours. In 19-degree weather. On Christmas Day. While 32 people ate and laughed inside. "Did you knock?" I asked, even though I knew the answer. "Twice." Nobody answered. I texted you but you didn't see it. I thought maybe everyone was busy and they just forgot I was out here. I didn't want to be rude. I just waited. She didn't want to be rude. My daughter sat outside in freezing temperatures for 3.5 hours because she didn't want to be rude. I helped her up. Her legs were stiff from sitting so long in the cold. I wrapped my coat around her and walked her to my car. I turned the heat on full blast. Her hands were like ice. I held them between mine, trying to warm them up. She was still crying. Still shivering. I asked her if she wanted to go back inside, to get warm, to eat something. She shook her head violently. She said she just wanted to go home. So I drove her home. We didn't talk on the way. I was too angry to speak. If I opened my mouth, I would scream, and I couldn't do that to Sophie. She didn't need to see me lose control. She needed me to be calm. To be steady. To be safe. So I drove in silence, one hand on the wheel, one hand holding hers. When we got home, I ran a hot bath. I helped Sophie out of her freezing clothes. Her fingers were so cold she couldn't work the buttons on her jeans. I had to do it for her. I got her into the bath and sat on the floor next to the tub while she warmed up. Her teeth finally stopped chattering after 20 minutes. The color started coming back to her face. She looked at me and said, "I'm sorry I ruined Christmas." I lost it. Not at her. Never at her. But the tears came and I couldn't stop them. I told her she didn't ruin anything. That she had done nothing wrong. That I was sorry. So sorry. That I should have been there. That I should have protected her. That this was my fault, not hers. She looked at me with those tired eyes again. Those eyes that had seen too much for 15 years. She said, "It's not your fault, Mom. They just don't like me. They never have. It's okay. I'm used to it." She was used to it. My 15-year-old daughter was used to being treated like she didn't matter. Like she was invisible. Like she was an inconvenience. And I had let it happen. For years, I had let it happen. I had made excuses. I had told her to give them a chance. I had convinced her to keep showing up, keep trying, keep hoping they would see her. And they never did. They never would. After Sophie got out of the bath, I made her hot chocolate and wrapped her in blankets on the couch. I turned on a movie, one of her favorites, and sat with her until she fell asleep. She was exhausted. Physically and emotionally drained. I stayed on the couch next to her, watching her breathe, watching the color in her cheeks, making sure she was okay. My phone buzzed 17 times. I didn't look at it. I knew who it was. I didn't care. When I finally checked my phone at 10 that night, I had 12 missed calls from my mother, 3 from my father, 2 from Matt. There were 8 text messages. All from my mother. All variations of the same thing. Where did you go? Why did you leave? You didn't even say goodbye. That was so rude. Call me. Not one message asked about Sophie. Not one message apologized. Not one message acknowledged that they had left a 15-year-old outside in freezing weather for 4 hours on Christmas. I didn't respond. I sat there in the dark, Sophie sleeping next to me, and I made a decision. A calm, cold, final decision. I was done. I was done protecting them. Done making excuses for them. Done sacrificing my daughter's well-being for people who didn't care about her. I was done. The next morning, I woke up early. Sophie was still asleep. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table with my laptop. I opened my banking app. I looked at the automatic payments I had set up 8 years ago. The mortgage payment to my parents' house. $934 a month. The car insurance. $187 a month. I canceled all of them. It took less than 5 minutes. Then I called my lawyer. His name was Thomas Brennan. I had used him 3 years ago when I bought my house. He answered on the 3rd ring. I apologized for calling the day after Christmas. He said it was fine, asked what I needed. I told him I owned a house that my parents lived in. That I had been paying the mortgage for 8 years. That they had no legal claim to it. That I wanted them out. He asked if I was sure. I said yes. He said he would start the paperwork immediately. He asked if there was a specific reason for the eviction. I told him they left my 15-year-old daughter outside in freezing weather for 4 hours on Christmas while they partied inside. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I'll have the papers ready by tomorrow." I also called the bank that held the mortgage. I explained that I would no longer be making payments. The representative asked why. I said I was foreclosing. She seemed surprised. She asked if I understood the implications. I said yes. She explained that my parents would receive a foreclosure notice. They would have a certain amount of time to either pay the full remaining balance or vacate the property. I asked how much time. She said typically 90 to 120 days, but it could be expedited under certain circumstances. I asked what circumstances. She said if I could prove financial hardship or if the occupants were damaging the property. I didn't have financial hardship, but I had something better. Documentation of neglect and endangerment of a minor. I told her I would send everything over. She said she would review it. I spent the rest of that day documenting everything. I wrote down every incident I could remember. Every birthday Sophie was excluded from. Every Christmas with minimal gifts. Every time they chose Matt's kids over her. Every time they ignored her accomplishments. And I documented December 25th in detail. The temperature. The timeline. The text messages. I took photos of Sophie's red, chapped face. I had her write down what happened in her own words. Not because I wanted to traumatize her more, but because I knew I would need proof. I knew they would fight this. And I wanted to be ready. On December 27th, my parents received the foreclosure notice. My father called me at 8 in the morning. He was screaming before I even said hello. "What the hell is this? A foreclosure notice? Are you insane? You're going to take our house." "Yes," I said calmly. "I am." "Over what? Because we forgot Sophie was outside?" "It was an accident, Rachel. We didn't mean to leave her out there. We just got busy with all the guests and—" "You didn't forget," I interrupted. "Mom told her to wait outside. Told her there was no room at the table. With 32 people inside, there was no room for one 15-year-old girl. Your granddaughter. You made a conscious choice to exclude her. To leave her in the cold. While you ate and laughed and celebrated. That wasn't an accident. That was cruelty. You're overreacting. She was fine. She's 15, not 5. She could have knocked harder. She could have called you. She could have. She did knock. Twice. Nobody answered. She did text me. I was working so you all could have Christmas off. She did wait, because she's a good kid who doesn't want to cause problems. She did everything right. You did everything wrong." My father was sputtering now. "We've been in this house for 33 years. You can't just take it from us. It's my house. I've been paying for it for 8 years. You've contributed nothing. You have no legal claim to it. And yes, I can take it. I am taking it. What are we supposed to do? Where are we supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore." I hung up. My mother called next. She was crying. Loud, dramatic crying. "How can you do this to us? We're your parents. We raised you. We gave you everything. And this is how you repay us? By throwing us out on the street. You gave me everything?" I repeated. "I've given you over $90,000 in the last 8 years. What have you given me? We gave you life. We gave you a home. We gave you love and support and—" "You gave me life 37 years ago and have held it over my head ever since. You didn't give me support. I've been supporting you. Financially and emotionally. 4 years. And when I needed you to show basic human decency to my daughter, you couldn't even do that. You left her outside in the cold. On Christmas. Because there was no room at the table. Do you know how insane that sounds? No room at a table that seats 12, in a house that holds 32 people, for one small 15-year-old girl. There really wasn't room. We had a lot of guests and—" "Stop. Just stop. There was room. You chose not to make room. You chose to exclude her. Like you've been excluding her for 15 years. And I'm done. I'm done enabling you. I'm done funding your life. I'm done pretending you're going to change. You need to be out of that house in 90 days. 90 days? We can't find a place in 90 days. We don't have the money. We don't have Then you should have thought about that before you left my daughter outside in 19-degree weather for 4 hours. I hung up. The calls kept coming. My mother called 16 times over the next 2 days. My father called 12 times. Matt called 6 times. I didn't answer any of them. On December 30th, Matt showed up at my house. I almost didn't let him in. But Sophie was in her room, and I didn't want him making a scene on my doorstep. So I opened the door. He looked terrible. Stressed. Exhausted. He said, "We need to talk." I said, "There's nothing to talk about. Mom and Dad are devastated. They're losing their house because of one mistake. You're destroying them over one mistake." It wasn't one mistake. It was 15 years of mistakes. Christmas was just the last one. "So you're going to throw them out? Make them homeless?" "They're 68 years old, Rachel. Where are they supposed to go?" "They can go anywhere they want. They just can't stay in my house." "Your house? You're seriously doing this? After everything they did for us growing up?" "What did they do for us, Matt? They gave us a roof and food. That's baseline. That's the bare minimum. They didn't give us love or support or encouragement. They played favorites. They pitted us against each other. They made me feel like I was never good enough. And now they're doing the same thing to our kids. To Sophie. And I won't allow it anymore. Sophie's fine. She's tough. She can handle it." I laughed. It came out cold and bitter. "She's not fine. She sat outside in freezing temperatures for 4 hours on Christmas because our parents told her there was no room for her. She's 15 years old and she's used to being excluded. Used to being ignored. Used to being treated like she doesn't matter. That's not fine, Matt. That's heartbreaking. And if you can't see that, then you're just as bad as they are." Matt's face hardened. "You're making a huge mistake. Family is family. You don't just abandon family. They abandoned Sophie first. I'm just returning the favor." He left. I didn't hear from him again. January came. My parents did not move out. They sent me letters. Long, rambling letters about how I was ruining their lives, how I was being cruel and vindictive, how they didn't deserve this. They sent Sophie a letter too. It was 2 pages long. It never apologized. It just said they were hurt by my decision, that they hoped Sophie understood this wasn't about her, that they loved her very much. Sophie read it once and threw it in the trash. She said, if they loved me, they wouldn't have left me outside. She was right. February came. The bank sent another notice. My parents had 30 days to vacate or they would be forcibly removed. My mother called me crying. She begged me to reconsider. She said they would apologize to Sophie. They would make it right. They would do better. I asked her what they would do better. She couldn't answer. She just kept saying they would try harder, be more mindful, pay more attention. Empty words. Words she should have said 15 years ago. I said no. March arrived. On March 7th, the sheriff showed up at my parents' house. I wasn't there. I didn't want to be. But my lawyer called me afterward with an update. He said my parents refused to leave. They told the sheriff they had rights, that I couldn't do this, that they had lived there for over 30 years. The sheriff explained that the house was in my name, that I had every legal right to evict them, that they needed to leave immediately. My mother screamed. My father tried to physically block the door. The sheriff gave them 2 hours to pack essentials. The rest of their belongings would be put in storage for 30 days, after which time it would be auctioned off if they didn't claim it. They left in Matt's truck. He had come to help them. I heard later that they moved into his basement. Temporarily. Until they could figure something out. The house sold in 3 weeks. A young couple with a baby. They were excited. They talked about painting the nursery, planting a garden, building a deck. I signed the papers and walked away with a check for $42,615. After paying off the remaining mortgage, the realtor's commission, and closing costs. I put the entire amount into Sophie's college fund. My parents tried to contact me a few more times over the next months. Emails. Letters. Once my father showed up at my office. Security escorted him out. He never came back. I heard through a former coworker of my father's that they were struggling. They were living in Matt's basement, which was unfinished and cold. My father found a job stocking shelves at a grocery store. Minimum wage. My mother was working part-time at a dry cleaner. They were barely making rent to Matt. Matt was resentful. His wife was angry. Their perfect family dynamic was fracturing under the weight of 2 additional adults who had nowhere else to go. I felt nothing when I heard this. No guilt. No satisfaction. Just this quiet sense of closure. They were experiencing consequences. For the first time in their lives, their actions had consequences they couldn't avoid or blame on someone else. Sophie started therapy in January. A wonderful woman named Dr. Lisa Hampton who specialized in family trauma. Sophie needed help processing everything. The years of exclusion. The Christmas incident. The guilt she felt about me cutting off my parents. Dr. Hampton helped her understand that none of this was her fault. That she didn't cause this. That I made my choice as a mother protecting her child. That she was worthy of love and respect and safety. I went to therapy too. Different therapist. Dr. Marcus Green. He helped me work through my own guilt. The guilt of not seeing it sooner. Of not protecting Sophie better. Of hoping my parents would change when all evidence said they never would. He helped me understand that I did the best I could with what I knew. And now I was doing better. That was all anyone could ask. Fast forward 18 months. Sophie is 17 now. She is thriving. She got accepted to 3 art schools. Full ride to her first choice, a prestigious design school in Boston. Her portfolio was stunning. Her essays were beautiful. She is talented and driven and finally believes in herself. She has friends. Real friends who value her. She has a boyfriend, a sweet kid named Daniel who treats her like she matters. She smiles all the time now. Laughs. Makes jokes. She is lighter. Freer. She is who she was always meant to be. I am doing well too. I got promoted. Director of Human Resources. Better pay. Better benefits. We moved into a small house. 2 bedrooms, a backyard, a garage. Sophie has her own art studio in the 2nd bedroom. She paints and draws and creates. The walls are covered with her work. It is beautiful. She is beautiful. My parents are still struggling. I heard they finally moved out of Matt's basement and into a small apartment. Government-subsidized housing. My father's health is declining. He has diabetes, high blood pressure, chronic pain from years of factory work. My mother works 2 part-time jobs. They are tired. Bitter. They tell people I abandoned them. That I threw them out over nothing. Some people believe them. Some people think I'm cruel. I don't care anymore. The people who matter know the truth. Matt and I don't speak. His wife divorced him last year. Too much stress. Too much resentment. Too much dysfunction. He blames me for that too. Says if I had just helped mom and dad, his marriage would be fine. I don't argue with him. There's no point. He will never see it. Never understand. And that's okay. I don't need him to. Sophie and I talk about that Christmas sometimes. She says it was the worst day of her life and also the turning point. The day she realized she didn't have to keep trying to earn love from people who would never give it. The day she learned that family is a choice, not an obligation. The day she understood that I would always choose her. Always protect her. Always put her first. I asked her once if she ever missed them. My parents. She thought about it for a long time. Then she said, I miss the idea of them. I miss having grandparents who love me. But I don't miss them. Because they never were that. And I can't miss something I never had. She's right. You can't miss something you never had. People ask me sometimes if I regret it. If I wish I had handled it differently. If I think I went too far. The answer is always no. I don't regret it. I protected my daughter. I set boundaries. I stopped enabling toxic people. I chose Sophie over everything. And I would do it again. In a heartbeat. There are moments when I think about that Christmas. About Sophie sitting on that porch, cold and alone, waiting for me. About how close I came to losing her. Not physically, but emotionally. About how many more years she might have spent trying to earn love from people who would never give it. And I'm grateful. Grateful that I finally saw clearly. Grateful that I finally acted. Grateful that I finally chose her the way she deserved to be chosen all along. Family is supposed to protect you. Supposed to keep you warm. Supposed to make you feel safe and loved and valued. If they can't do that, if they actively hurt you, then they're not family. They're just people you happen to share DNA with. And you don't owe them your loyalty just because of biology. You owe loyalty to the people who show up, who choose you, who keep you warm instead of leaving you in the cold. Sophie deserved that. She always deserved that. And now she has it. So what do you think? Did I go too far, or just far enough? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want more stories about mothers who chose their children over toxic families, do not forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon. I've got 2 more stories queued up for you, both about the moment we realized protecting our kids means walking away from the people who were supposed to love them. Click on whichever one calls to you. Until next time, remember, family is about who shows up, not who shows up in your DNA.